A fighter trains with the best and wins with a KO. Kelly Orchard's podcast for successful badassery. Just as apples are a core ingredient to a healthy diet, Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day is a core ingredient to living a fruitfully badass life. Turn up your energy with Fruitful Friday. Here's Kelly Orchard.
Okay, here we are, turning up the heat and the energy on this Fruitful Friday. Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier with you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ocean, for your ocean of talent. I just love having him announce me. You know, it's like there's a childhood, well, I don't know if you call it childhood, but there's a family memory. Bobby Ocean is an old family friend. He's was a boss radio jock in Los Angeles, and then he moved up to San Francisco for a really long time. He worked with my dad at radio in Los Angeles in the 70s at KHJ. And then when we built our first radio station, we brought Bobby Ocean's voice along with us. So when it came time for me to create this podcast, I reached out to Ocean, who is actually retired now, and he was gracious enough to lend his voice to the podcast for successful badassery. And I love that. Thank you. That's one of the badass things that we do here, right? You know, so we use our contacts and we utilize our skills and talents that we've developed over the years. So, you know, July has been Heart Lessons Month. I shared with you that, the entire month of July, I was giving away my book, Heart Lessons, absolutely free. Still not too late. If you're listening right now, you can go grab it. Just click the link in the show notes for Heart Lessons. That's my first book that shares the story of my heart crisis that led me to become a licensed psychotherapist. This is successful badassery. That's what we're focusing on the month of July. Coming up next month in August, we're starting all over again with the B in badass, which, you know, is an acronym, and the B in badass stands for be yourself. But how can you be yourself if you don't really know yourself? So I've got some really cool Mustang Mondays coming up for you. That's right. I just recorded I call them the Badass Ladies of Michelle's Place. You know, I'm now podcasting from Michelle's Place Cancer Resource Center. That is where I moved my office, and I recruited all the ladies from Michelle's Place to hop in the Mustang for me and to give us a badass tip from the street. So the entire month of August is going to be dedicated to Mustang Mondays to Michelle's Place ladies. So we had a lot of laughs, we had some tears, and some fun. And you know, it's not over. The journey is not over because Mustang Monday has 5 episodes in the month of August, and we just had one with my new badass brand strategist Jennifer Evans just the other day on Monday, and then of course I've got 4 or 5 more episodes coming up in August with Kim Garish and Jennifer Smith and Michelle Brewer and Regina Pelosi and I think Laura Lawrence is going to. So anyway. We're having a really good time over here at Michelle's Place. So moving right along. We're talking about success and practicing well-being in the workplace a little bit and taking charge of your mental health. You know, therapists and counselors are in short supply, and as people go back to work, you need to have a badass plan now. So I am glad that you're here as I certify badasses one podcast at a time. I have a couple of articles again for you on this Fruitful Friday, as well as some Apple a Day and some weekend vibes. The first thing I want to talk about is the lure of toxic productivity. I used to be guilty of this myself. So when I speak of this, I speak to my own heart. Toxic productivity, what is it? Now, this is an article that I found in called Above the Law. It's actually written for attorneys. The link is in the show notes. I'm just going to read you some excerpts from the article because it's really poignant, especially to what we're going on right now. Toxic productivity occurs when we try to schedule the maximum amount of output for every minute of our day. Balance is a myth. It seems like a generalization, but hear me out. I don't think that you shouldn't try to achieve balance, but you should never expect perfect balance, at least not by yourself. The truth of the matter is that when people work together, they bring about balance. You'll never be able to juggle everything 24/7. There's going to be times where you drop the ball. If you reframe your thinking, however, then you'll find that you never truly need to drop the ball. Sometimes you must pass it to somebody else or pass it all together. And that's what we should call balance. So what is toxic productivity? Well, toxic productivity occurs when we try to schedule that maximum amount of output for each and every minute of our day. We fill every moment with back-to-back meetings, projects, or research with little or no time for breaks. Toxic productivity assumes that we can always perform at our best. All we must do is pack our days. Don't be afraid of recognizing that you can't do it all alone. We have to have wonderful friends and spouses and coworkers to help us stay balanced, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life. So the trick is to find a support group and figure out how to structure that and then distribute the load equally and sustainably. Sustainability is the most important factor of productivity, yet it is the most overlooked. So as we're talking about toxic productivity and achieving some help and some balance, another article I found in neuroscience. Now, I love neuroscience. I'm a neuroscience nerd, geek. I love to study it. Talking about how cognitive flexibility helps you with your learning and creativity, and can actually help with the ability to switch between, well, this is what cognitive flexibility is. It is the ability to switch between different concepts or adapt behavior to achieve goals in a novel or changing environment. And that's the key player in both learning and creativity. Now, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence, and I've been sharing that with you all of this month of July. Now, the IQ, that's your intelligence quotient, is often hailed as a crucial driver of success, particularly in fields of science, innovation, and technology. In fact, many people have an endless fascination with the IQ scores of famous people. But in truth, it's some of the greatest achievements by our species have primarily relied on qualities such as creativity, imagination, curiosity, and empathy. Many of these traits are embedded in what scientists call cognitive flexibility, a skill that enables us to switch between different concepts or to adapt behaviors to achieve goals in a novel and changing environment. It's essential about learning to learn and being able to be flexible about the way you learn. This includes changing strategies for optimal decision making. In your ongoing research, we're going to try to work out how people can best boost their cognitive flexibility. This is what I've been working on with my clients. I've developed it with myself. And I got to tell you, it's like the badass soundtrack and music really does help. More on that in a bit. Cognitive flexibility provides us with the ability to see what we are doing is not leading to success and to make the appropriate changes to achieve it. If you normally take the same route to work, but there are now road work on your usual route, what do? Some people remain rigid and stick to the original plan, despite the delay. More flexible people adapt to the unexpected event and problem solve to find a solution. This is what I do now. I can't claim that I always did that. We grow as we gain more wisdom, should we choose to. So now cognitive flexibility may have effect on people, how they cope during the pandemic lockdowns, which produced new challenges around work and schooling. Some of us found it easier than others to adapt our routines to many activities from home. Such as flexible people may have also changed the routines from time to time, trying to find a better and more varied way of doing things and going about their day. Others, however, struggle and ultimately became more rigid in their thinking. They stuck to the same routine activities with little flexibility or change. The good news is that it seems that you can train cognitive flexibility. This is what I love. Cognitive behavioral therapy, that's what I am trained specifically in. CBT, for example, is an evidence-based psychological therapy which helps people change their patterns of thoughts and behavior. A person with depression who has not been contacted by a friend in a week may attribute this to the friend no longer liking them. But in CBT, the goal is to reconstruct their thinking to consider more flexible options, such as the friend being busy or unable to contact them. As we come out of the pandemic, we're going to need to ensure that in teaching and training, there's some new skills that we develop. People have to learn to be cognitively flexible in their thinking, and this will provide them with greater resilience and well-being in the future. which will help reduce the toxic productivity and achieve better balance. All right, so on this Fruitful Friday, I also want to share with you about how music can help us reconcile our conflicted emotions when making choices that can also help overcome cognitive dissonance. I'm giving you 3 different articles today on this Fruitful Friday podcast because I wanted to kind of back up for you what I do. I study neuroscience and cognitive behavioral therapy. I use cognitive behavioral therapy in my psychotherapy practice. When I developed the License to Be Badass program, I implemented a lot of those tools to create something for you so that you can gain these tools yourself and have them independently, able to access them whenever you want with worksheets and lectures so that you can become licensed to be badass. And I use music along the way. Billions of people enjoy music and many feel that they can't live without it. That's me. Why? It's a question that has puzzled scientists and philosophers for centuries. 2,400 years ago, Aristotle wondered, why does music, being just sounds, remind us of the states of our soul? In the 19th century, Darwin tried to decipher if our ability to create music evolved by natural selection. Of all human faculties, only music seemed beyond understanding. Flummoxed, he came up to the conclusion that music is the greatest mystery. Music's effects on our brains is closely related to what's been dubbed the greatest discovery in social psychology of the 20th century, cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is the idea that people experience unpleasant feelings when they either possess contradictory knowledge or are confronted with new information that opposes their existing beliefs. A manifestation of cognitive dissonance is the rejection of new knowledge. Even some great scientific discoveries have had to wait decades for recognition and acceptance because they contradicted existing beliefs that people didn't want to surrender. For example, Einstein did not receive a Nobel Prize for his theory of relativity, now considered one of the greatest discoveries in the history of mankind, because it contradicted our core belief about space and time. So if people are unwilling to deceive themselves or ignore new information, how has human culture evolved? After all, the foundation of culture is the accumulation of new knowledge, much of which contradicts existing knowledge. Consider language. When language emerged in our species, every new different word was a nugget of new information that contradicted an existing idea or belief. A powerful mechanism in the mind must have evolved to enable our ancestors to overcome these unpleasant dissonances that split their world and allowed them to keep contradictory knowledge, to absorb new words rather than immediately discard them. Could it be that this ability was enabled by music? While language splits the world into detailed, distinct pieces, music unifies the world into a whole. Our psyche requires it. Beyond multiple choice tests, we are constantly confronted with choices in our day-to-day lives, from the mundane, what to buy for lunch, to the major, whether or not to accept a job offer. We often use both intuition and pragmatism when evaluating complex situations, but we also incorporate emotion. And when there are choices related to 2 universal themes of our existence, love and death, which are inherently steeped in contradictions. With love, we'd like to fully trust it, but we know that to fully trust is dangerous, that we can be betrayed and disappointed. With death, one of the most difficult contradictions of all is our longing to believe in spiritual eternity and our knowledge that our time on earth is finite. It is any consequence, then, that there are many songs about love and betrayal, or that we are drawn to sorrowful songs in time of mourning? Music can convey an array of nuanced emotions, help us reconcile our own conflicted emotions in making choices, and the more diverse, differentiated emotions we possess, the more well-founded our decisions become. Whether it's choosing to play with a toy or deciding to propose to a boyfriend or girlfriend, our research shows that music can enhance our cognitive abilities. Thus, because we constantly grapple with cognitive dissonances, we created music in part to help us tolerate and overcome them. This is the universal purpose of music. And this is why I use music to help you create your own personal badass soundtrack. It's a universal tool unique to you. All right, so as we wrap up on this Fruitful Friday, I've got a couple of nice, warm, fresh apples for you. You know, you are in a season of life, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. When we talk about our seasons of life, we might consider youth as the springtime. Our 20s and 30s are probably the summer. Our 50s and 60s, that's the fall. And we might consider our later years as the winter of our life. That's one analogy. But the seasons of our life are not necessarily linked to age. I like to say we go through many seasons of life. Here's one thing you can count on. Your seasons will change. You will have many springtimes, a time to reinvent, a time to start over, time to plant new seeds for growth. You'll have many summers of your life, time to grow naturally, time to focus on your strengths and take action or just relax. You'll have many times when it's the fall of your life. You're counting your blessings and reaping the fruits of all your hard work. And you'll have times when it's the winter season, when you have to cut back the old withered parts of your life, prune back some of your expectations, and start again. Change is inevitable. Whatever season you're in right now, it will change. Changing and growing are a perpetual process. Stephen Covey wrote, "Be patient with yourself. Self-growth is tender. It's holy ground. There's no greater investment." So take advantage of everything your season of life has to offer, every experience. If you're currently in a season of struggle, then take advantage of the opportunity to listen to your own desires and obstacles while also listening to others who might be struggling. Find comfort in the fact that you're not alone. Take the time to observe and learn what is happening all around you, at work, at home, in your relationships. Take time for growth. If you're in a season of happiness and contentment, show that you appreciate the happiness and contentment. Be grateful and be generous, especially to someone who's in a season of struggling. It'll do your heart good to bring special joy to someone. You never know when you'll need someone to be kind to you. Seasons change. Our life changes. It's something we can count on. Be mindful of every experience you have, the good and the bad, and remember these words from Steve Jobs. Your time is limited. Don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary. Now, a little bit of weekend vibes for you. It is the last weekend of July. Can you believe it? Here comes August. Have you scheduled your self-care away time from your real life? Don't let summer pass you by without creating something to look forward to. For me, I've got Sedona to look forward to. For the long term, I'm going again the first weekend of October. But for the short term, I'm seeking out friends and putting things on our calendars so that we have some pre-planned fun to look forward to. I know it doesn't seem spontaneous, and most of us love the spontaneity. But one thing I do with a good friend of mine who's in a very similar season and circumstance of life as me, we just simply pick a date and enter it on our calendar and just say, and she just writes something with Kelly. And I put her name, something with Cynthia. And then we agree just to book the date, figure it out later. That's how we maintain a feeling of spontaneity, but also know that we've got something to look forward to. So create a longer term plan to look forward to, maybe some big vacation or some big retreat or whatever it is that you know that you need to do. But in the meantime, don't let summer pass you by. You can get out and about a little bit, so take advantage of it. Have some fun on this weekend for some weekend vibes for sure. You know, August Apple a Day is all full of hope. That's right. I've got some hope for you. So if you subscribe to my Apple a Day podcast on this same platform that you're listening to the podcast for Successful Badassery, you're gonna get filled with little bite-sized morsels of hope throughout the month of August. I also wanted to share that Mustang Mondays features all of my badass lady friends here at Michelle's Place Cancer Resource Center. Each and every Monday, they've got some awesome badass tips for you to keep you going, and it's all very topical for the entire month of August. I will be focusing on the letter B in badass. We have gone through the entire acronym on this first half of the year. So I'm starting all over with B again. So if you've missed some, that's okay. You can always go back and listen to all of these old podcasts. I do give you new content every time. So anything I do with the B in badass is going to be different from the month of January, which is when I started this. I took off the month of May, so there is a month that there was no podcast, and that's because I was moving over here to Michelle's place, and it's just a lot of work to juggle. Talk about balance. This was one of those the month of May for the podcast was the month that I had to let the ball be just passed for a minute. But I did maintain balance, and you didn't miss a beat. People still listen to the old episodes, and we're good. All right, so this is Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. You can still get the my Heart Lessons book absolutely free. In the meantime, you can go to my website and get your Badass Habits ebook. So don't remember that we're working on a success mindset. Therapists and counselors are in short supply, and you need a badass plan right now. So let me be the light that guides you out of the dark. That's my strategy, my vision. I've been in this dark tunnel before. I lost my health, my work, my finances, and my house all at the same time. I was alone and still raising teenagers. I fought my way back. It wasn't easy to begin, but staying the course despite obstacles and setbacks is what made all the difference. Now, how can I help you? The tools that you have acquired during this program will help you develop a strong foundation you need to build and grow on. Now, let's create some habits for success. Remember, growth is not about numbers. Our purpose is to grow, like Cell's purpose is to grow. The tasks and jobs are varied and changeable. Your growth will not look like anybody else's growth. It's uniquely your own. Just like a tree has its own pattern of growth, or any plant or living creature, you are unique in your own growth. So awaken your mind and go in a new direction of growth. Like the Japanese bonsai tree, you can prune your life to branch out in ways that will consist of perpetual emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth. Your personal life will improve, and so will your professional life. We are not slaves to our brain or our unhelpful thinking. You can think of a car as a brain. It has certain functions. The driver is the mind. It controls the vehicle. So when you change your mind, you change your direction. My program, Licensed to be Badass, was designed to cause you to practice self-reflection and create a sense of self-awareness with emotional and social intelligence. Now, I want to help you continue on this journey by inviting you to join. It's not like any other badass or any coaching program. No, it's cookie cutter. It's badass. I created it by myself with you in mind. And a badass who knows it could use some new tools in their toolbox to navigate the waters therapeutically. Digging in to rediscover who you are, why you're badass, and how to maintain a positive mindset to live a successfully badass life. Thank you so much for joining me on this Fruitful Friday. Remember to plan something strategize the rest of summer, because August is what? Like tomorrow. All right, take it away, Bobby.
When the bus arrives at Badassville, you discover it's not a place. It's a state of being. Hop on the bus to Badassville. Snag your Badass Habits ebook. Get started on your badass journey. Go to licensedtobebadass.com.